Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends. Are you tied down? Has the wind blown you away? Is it, have you anchored yourself to something strong? It's still crazy out there, man. Crazy. Currently, across the state of Alaska, within the sound of my broadcasting voice, 17 below in Fairbanks, 15 above in Homer, and weird and cold everywhere in between, right? I mean, Anchorage is currently 13 degrees. Down in Soldovia, it's a couple degrees higher. In the Matsu, still a wind weather warning in effect. They thought it was going to be done yesterday morning. No. Till this afternoon, they said. Wind gusts still up to 75 miles an hour. Schools are closed again in the Matsu, except for the area out by Susitna. But every other school in the whole area is closed. They're picking up the pieces. Apparently, there's stuff everywhere, and it's going to be a crazy, crazy time. So, welcome to winter in Alaska, my friends. This is where we go. But we are ready to go. So if you're in the Matsu, buckle up. It'll be done by today. They say one says 6 a.m. The other one says 11 a.m. So Terry's saying it's slowed down out there in her neck of the woods now. We'll see. Hopefully for the whole Matsu, they're seeing it out there. 15 degrees right now in Wasilla Fishhook and more. So anyway, we're getting close. Let's see. Today is the 9th of December, and that means, oh, baby, only 13 more days till Christmas Eve. Only 10 more days till my vacation. Anyway, so it's all good. We're enjoying it. Today is, I was going to say today's the final day of our weekly visits with Brad. I was going to say beat down, but that's just so negative. It's just so negative. Our weekly visits with Brad. But you know what? I just realized something the other day. The governor's budget comes out on the 15th, which means that Brad will have just enough time to analyze it and bring it back to us next week. So maybe we'll see if we can get Brad to mix up his top three. Maybe we can get one that's the governor, maybe two that's some government stuff, and then one, and then maybe we can hold him over for a little extra segment. We can do some Christmassy stuff. It's, we got to do it, man. We got to do it. We got to get better. We got to get better about this. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, joins us this morning. Hello, Bradley. How are you?
Michael, that's my Christmas present, that I don't have to do 3 segments of Christmassy stuff. I'm not sure I've got 3 segments of Christmassy stuff in me.
What is with you and the bah humbug, man? It's just you and Chris. When I asked you to do that a few years ago, you thought I would ask you to strangle a cat or something. I can't do it. But maybe we'll do 3 in 1 or something. You can do your 3 normal, and then in hour 2 we'll take a segment or so, and we can Christmassy the place up a little bit. Okay, gosh, I know it's so hard. Why is your default the doom and gloom, Brad? Everybody wants to know.
It's not doom and gloom. It's just facts. I mean,
it's that's the thing. Somebody else was like, "Oh, I'm going to pass on Brad and check back tomorrow. I'm going to pass on Brad again. It's just too much." Well, I'm sorry that the truth hurts, but it's as the old Jack Nichols, you can't handle the truth, kind of thing, So anyway, we're good to go. Well, it's good to see you, Brad. Thanks for coming on board. As always, it's great to have you on board. We've been talking about this stuff for 12 years now, something like that. I mean, the same stuff, different versions of the same song over and over and over again. You'd think somebody would start listening. But maybe, just maybe. Well, let's dive into the weekly top 3, Brad. This week, we're going to start off with the question, which we actually spent a good time on this, and I've been talking about this for years. What the Constitution says about our resource development. What does the Constitution actually say? And I will say again, when you hear the word maximum benefit, what do you hear versus what does a politician hear? And that's, I think, the big key here. Let's get started with the weekly top 3. And you've muted yourself.
At least I put the microphone back together. Yeah, I kicked it out.
Oh, good job. Okay, so anyway, what does the Constitution say, Brad?
So there was a discussion, a legislative forum up in Fairbanks, reported on by the Fairbanks Newsminer, that I think crystallized something for me that maybe I'd realized before and forgotten, and maybe this is the first time it's come to me, but it crystallized some thoughts for me about oil taxes and people's reactions to oil taxes that I think is important. The Constitution says maximum benefit. That's exactly right. What you quoted the Constitution as saying. But I think people hear that differently or articulate that to themselves differently, depending upon which side of the fence they're on. Some people, I think, see that and say maximum revenues. Maximum revenues in the sense that let's take everything from the oil companies we can, as long as the oil companies don't, shut everything down and leave. That is maximum benefit to us, to maximize those revenues. And I think that was the predicate on which ACES was based. I mean, you can see the effect of that. You can see the background of ACES, and then you can see the effect of that in terms of maximizing revenues to the state. The problem with that, the problem with ACES, the problem with maximizing revenues was the oil companies didn't pack up and leave the state, but they didn't bring any more money to the state. They didn't bring any more investment to the state. They didn't bring any more activity to the state. So what you had was a situation in which we were taking a big chunk of revenues as production continued, but production started to decline. And even though we were taking a big chunk of revenues, that production was declining, and we weren't getting the maximum benefit out of our resources because people had stopped developing.
Oh, we lost you, Brad. Your mic just crackled, and there you go. Sorry. It just clicked off again. I think you're kicking the cord. There you go. There we go.
I'll just stand here. Anyway, so I think people see maximum revenues, maximum benefit, interpret that as maximum revenues, and interpret, we can take a big chunk of that as long as the oil companies don't leave the state. Then we have the other side, and the other side, I think, looks at that language and they say maximum production. That what we're supposed to be doing is maximizing production of the state's resources, maximizing the development of the state's resources. And that's sort of what SB 21 was predicated on, but not really. SB 21 was predicated on trying to find the sweet spot between certainly where ACES had led us in terms of maximizing revenues, but at the expense of development, and sort of unfettered development. I mean, you could have zero taxes and you'd have a huge amount of production probably, because that cost would go away from the oil companies, and so they could continue to invest. But SB 21 was trying to find the sweet spot, I think, between maximizing production at all costs and where we'd been with ACES in terms of maximizing revenues. The problem is, I think SB 21, as it's gone on, and it's now 12 years old. It's about to be 14 years old. I think SB 21, as it's gone on, certain of the provisions in SB 21 that were intended to encourage development and intended to increase production have sort of gone amok, and they have resulted in sort of going much more toward the side of let's have no taxes and maximize and focus on maximizing production. And I think SB 21, as it's evolved, has gone over into the maximize production sort of without regard to revenues camp. And you see that particularly, I mean, you see that in the 10-year forecast when you have production increasing by 40% and production taxes, which is a significant way we get revenue out of oil, production taxes going down by 40%. You see that in the 10-year revenue forecast. But you see it even more in the DOR studies done recently for Pica and Willow. You see that we're not, I mean, some people say that we're just deferring cash. We're going to have a cash flow problem for a while, but then that cash is going to show back up. It's not. I mean, what happens with the way the GVR, the gross value reduction provision, is working on Pica, for example, we don't see any production tax revenues out of Pica for 7 years, from 2025 to 2032. And we don't see full production tax revenues until much later than that, after most of the production from the initial Pica production is gone. And it doesn't come back. I mean, that production's gone, wasn't taxed at all. And so we are left without, it's not cash flow, it's just cash deficiency, because we never get cash out of that production. So I think what we've seen with SB 21 is just gone way over on the other side. It's gone to the sort of the maximized production. Those who read the constitutional provision is saying maximize production without regard to revenues has sort of gone over the edge. What we ought to be searching for is what the Constitution says, maximum benefit. We ought to be searching for that sweet spot that I think SB 21 was initially intended to go after, which was continue to have development in the state, so you continue to have production out there, but you get a share of the benefits. Alaskans get a share of the benefits of that production. And that's how SB 21 was sold. It was sold as we're going to reduce taxes in order to increase incentives for investment. We're going to have increased investment that's going to lead to increased production, and we're going to get the benefits out of that increased production. We're going to get a share out of that increased production. It's not what's happened with SB 21. And so people, I think both sides are just not reading the constitutional provision. Those who talk about fair share, for example, are really talking about maximizing revenues. They're talking about the old ACES structure of maximizing revenues without regard to what happens to incentives for development. And I think those who talk about, SB 21 being great, we got to leave it in place, it's doing fine, we just have a little cash flow problem here in the meantime. They're talking about maximizing production sort of without regard to what it does in terms of revenues, in terms of what it delivers to Alaskans. And I think they're both missing the boat here. I think we ought to have the conversations about oil taxes ought to always focus on maximum benefit. And it's almost a mathematical question. It's almost a question of what tax structure allows continued development, but takes a proper share of that a share of that continued development for Alaskans, benefits Alaskans in terms of the revenue flow. And frankly, that's almost a mathematical formula. But we never discuss it that way. We always talk about, we got to maximize production, maximize development, and maximize production sort of without regard to what happens in revenues. And that's what we've got now. Or we got to maximize revenues sort of without regard to what happens to development and production. And that's what happened. That's what happened under ACES. I think they're both missing the point. And Alaska is the worse off because of that.
It was interesting, and I mean, we could spend a whole day talking specifically about the deficiencies in the oil taxation scheme. And I know that, you know, the removal of the GVR in SB 21 would go a long way to that, and we can get into that. But I think it's interesting you brought up this article from the Newsminer, because I was watching some of the video of this last week, and then I was reading the article in the Newsminer about all the things that they're asking for. And, you know, this just sounds like a bunch of kids with like, well, we need our stuff. We need our stuff. I don't care, you know, and the legislators, basically to a man and a woman, were all saying the same thing. We're facing some serious fiscal challenges. And they're like, oh, we've heard it before. We just want our stuff. Everything from full reimbursement on school bond debt reimbursement to defined benefits. They want more money for the schools. And you know, a wish list of capital projects and everything else. I just don't think that these folks understand that hard times is coming. I think that the legislators are starting to see that and understand it, but the local municipalities, they've always gotten the sugar from Uncle Daddy, and now it's like we can't do that anymore. Give me your thoughts on that before we go to break.
Well, no, I think you're right. We have a disconnect. I mean, so when Mindy O'Neill, the new mayor, was part of this, and Mindy O'Neill said, you know, when confronted with the revenue question, Mindy said, well, we need to get our fair share of oil revenues. That's where the deficiency is. And it's like, you know, we're entitled to this stuff. And so we need to get it. We need to take it out of the oil companies without regard to, you know, what that does on incentives and without regard to what that does on production and development, because we need the stuff. I mean, we think we need this stuff here in Fairbanks. And so you need to go tax the oil companies more to pay for that stuff. It's not, I mean, they're seeing the constitutional provision through their own particular set of eyes. I want more revenue. So the constitutional provision means maximize revenues. Or those, you know, on the conservative side see, you know, that provision saying, oh, maximize development and production, jobs, and, you know, get a bunch of oil up there, sort of without regard to the revenues that flow to the state. And everybody's seeing it through their own eyes. And a lot of the people in the borough, you're right, in the Fairbanks borough, Anchorage, throughout the state, see it in terms of, I want my money.
Right.
And I've got stuff I want to spend it on. So give me more money.
Right. I want my $2. That's what they're looking for. That's the thing here. And it just shocks me to watch some of the commentary. I watched the interchange between Rob Myers and I don't know, remember who it was, Bobby Burgess or somebody. Anyway, whoever it was on the board, and they were talking about we just need more money. We just need more money. And you know, again, the question is, where does it come from? There's only so much more blood in the stone, and it's empty pretty much at this point. So anyway, Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. We're going to continue here in just a moment. We got more coming up. We're about to dive into it with number 2. We'll continue in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. You know, this story in the Newsminer just lays it out. I mean, what was the thing? Assembly member Kristen Kelly was equally blunt after she was told that, hey, we're out of money. We need new revenues. She said, stating she'd heard the same argument for 20 years, including the decline in oil revenue. Well, yeah, it just has gotten worse over the last 20 years. It just sounds really stale And, we all know revenue's down and dependence on it at the state level is problematic. We need new revenues. Or maybe we should learn to live within our means and not look for the state to bail out the municipalities. That's part of the problem, is you got municipalities living way beyond their means because they've been soaking it up off the state for the last 40 years. And maybe now they need to, pull themselves together.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done with the state support in Alaska, what we've done with the state support for the localities is sort of disconnect them from reality, right? They haven't had to raise their own funds. They haven't had to go to their constituents and say, we want to do this or we want to do that, and we need you to pay more to do that. I mean, in a lot of the other states, that's what happens. If you want something more at the locality, you have to go raise it from your constituents, and you have to go to explain to them why you're going to tax them more in order to raise the money. We don't have that in Alaska, and we don't have a lot of that in Alaska. And so you have people who say, I mean, a school board, it shows up most with school boards, right? Because the school boards are funded largely by the state. And so they're sort of just lobbyists, right? If you got a problem at the local level on a school board, oh, it's the state's fault. It's not my fault. I mean, it's not, I can't do anything about it. You got to raise more money from the state. And you start focusing, you try to focus all the anger on the state. And so they don't have any sense of reality because they don't have to confront it. They're not the ones who have to go to their constituents and explain it. They just, blame the state and try to get more from the state.
It is the penultimate example of what you say many times. Don't tax me, don't tax thee, tax the man behind the tree, right? It's always somebody else's money that we're using. It's not us. We want it, but we're definitely not willing to pay for it. I mean, if a community really wanted to have better schools in their community, they should be pushing back on the state on the federal cap on local contributions. I mean, because you've made that point many times that we're underfunding local schools from the local community contribution as compared to the national average by a good 15 or 20%.
Right.
I mean, if you really wanted to step it up, that's where you need to go. But nobody's willing to do that. They're happy to, because then Uncle Sugar's paying for it. I don't have to pay for it. Right.
Or you have somebody else to blame. I mean, you have, we got problems. It's not my fault though. I'm trying hard. It's the state's problem. And, in the view of some, it's because they're not taxing the oil companies enough. And that's the real problem, not my problem.
Yeah.
And so you just have this escapism sort of.
It's opium. It's one hell of a drug. OPM, other people's money. It's one hell of a drug. That's where we're at. We're all addicts jonesing for the next hit from the state or the Fed or somebody who's not us. And I've been talking about this for 25. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of talking about this for 25 years. I mean, what are we gonna learn? But again, we got a whole new crew of people in there. I didn't recognize half the names on the assembly in Fairbanks because I'm not really paying attention to Fairbanks that much in that regard politically. And yet all of these guys are saying exactly the same thing that many others have said in the past, which is, we should look to the state for this. They need to step up, and they. Whoa, wait a second. Why aren't you stepping up to do your own thing? It's kind of crazy. 30 seconds here, Brad.
Well, yeah. And then, the state says, well, we don't have the money. Oh, you need to tax the oil companies more and take more out of them. And that's, there are revisions we need to make in the tax code. We are not getting the maximum benefit. The state's not getting the maximum benefit, but it's not the be all and end all answer. It's not going to, pour zillions into the Fairbanks North Star borough to solve the problems they have there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anything's going to change. Kim says, I see a complete crash and burn scenario with all the ignorance in Juneau. And maybe that's what it takes. We've talked about this. An addict will only come to Jesus meeting when they hit the rock bottom. And maybe that's what we need. Brad Keithley, our guest, The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
The Michael Dukes Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. One of my favorite commentators, if you could hear the air quotes there, favorite commentators, Larry Persiley. That guy, he writes a lot, and usually I disagree with most of what he writes. Brad's got a bone to pick with Persiley because apparently he sees the effect of things, but never the cause. He's always talking about, he's always got a plan, but it seems like the plan is always the same thing as the assemblies in the local, just more, right? It's just more. He sees the effect, but not the cause. Brad?
Well, so he wrote a column that I picked up in the Peninsula Clarion. It may show up in other publications in the state. The title of it was "The Country's Economy is Brewing Caf and Decaf," caffeine coffee and decaf coffee. And the article focuses on the K shape of the economy, the K economy. We've talked about it on the show before, where, you know, part of the economy is doing well and part of the economy is not doing well. You look at the averages and the economy seems to be rocking along sort of okay. But when you disaggregate it into the components of the economy, it forms this K shape with part going up and part going down. I did a column a couple of weeks ago in the Alaska landmine, where I sort of looked at that, and I had a couple of charts in there that I can use to demonstrate both use the other one first. Let's use the other one first. Demonstrate both what's going on in the economy and as well as what Persiley's overlooking. This chart is the change in mean real Alaska household income by income bracket from 2010 to 2023, and I use that period because that's the period for which data is available from the Census Bureau. And by real, I mean it is X inflation. We take inflation, the effect of inflation, the growth created by inflation, out of it, and show the real change, in economic terms, the real change over a period of time. And it's by income bracket, and the income brackets are different colors. We start in 2010, where everybody was in 2010 is sort of the base, and then the index is how much they rose from 2010 in terms of their real median income, or how much they dropped from 2010 in terms of real median income. And you can see that we have both. This is the K economy, because, you know, if you use the left-hand vertical axis as the straight line on the K, you can see the two components, the two legs of the K coming out, one going up and one going down. And you can also see the middle, the average or the median, sort of staying right at 100% through the entire time. Those going up are those having an increase in real income over the period, are those in the top 20%. To some degree, the upper middle 20% also have a slight increase. That's the green line that ends up a little bit above 100 by 2023. But we also have a drop. I mean, we also have the bottom of the K economy, and that's the lower 20%, and they end up the lowest 20%, and they end up somewhere around 92%, 90 on the index, 90 at 92 by 2023. They started at 100, but in terms of what's happened over the course of those 13 years, they've seen a decline in real income over that period of time. And that's what Persiley's article is about. It's really about the K economy and the development of the K economy over the last decade plus. The situation in which some have done better than the average and some have done worse than the average, and we have this increase income divide in the country between the two. This isn't dollars. This is the percent of growth or decline from where they were in 2010, and things have gotten worse for those in the low 20%, and they've gotten better for those in the upper incomes. So Persiley goes that far, and he says, "Oh, we got this K problem, and we've got this growing gap in the economy that's developed over the last 20 years." But then he doesn't address, what's causing that. At least in Alaska, he doesn't talk about that. And in fact, he's one of the advocates of what has driven this. We did another chart. Okay, flip to the other chart. We did another chart, and this is the effect of reversing the PFD cuts. If we had reversed the PFD cuts, if we hadn't made the PFD cuts since 2017, that we've had since calendar year 2016, fiscal year 2017. If we didn't make those PFD cuts, this is the effect of the change in real income that would have had. And as you can see, the blue line, which is the lowest 20%, would have had an increase in real income. And what's happened over this period of time is that the PFD would have gotten larger and larger and larger as the permanent fund earnings grew and grew and grew, and the low 20% as a share of their income would have had income growth along with everybody else through this period. There would have been no one by 2023. There would have been no one in Alaska who had an income decline. Everybody would have had a real income decline. Everybody would have had a real income increase. One of the biggest proponents for using PFD cuts as the revenue source is Persiley. And so you've got it. You've got the understanding. He's got the understanding that we've gone into a K economy. We've gone into an economy where real incomes for a segment of the folks are in decline, while real incomes for a segment of the folks are advancing. And overall, it looks sort of like average. Overall, it sort of looks like everybody's doing okay, but that's masking the separation between the two. He's got that issue. He's got that problem. He understands that problem, but then he doesn't look for the solution to that and what's causing that. And you can see from this chart in particular, you can see that a real cause of that is the PFD cuts. Now, this chart probably overstates the effect of reversing the PFD cuts on low income and lower middle income families. The reason is not everybody in Alaska. This chart assumes that PFDs would have gone to everybody, every household in Alaska, and PFDs don't go to every household in Alaska. Out of the 750,000 people we've got in the state, only 640,000 receive PFDs because the others don't qualify. This assumes essentially that the PFDs would have gone to the full 750,000. So it probably overstates the effect, but directionally it's correct. Directionally, it shows that the distribution of the PFD, continued distribution of the PFD, would have moved everybody up.
Rising tide floats all boats, kind of thing. Right.
As opposed to creating the K economy effect. So I give credit to Persiley to frankly to finally signing on to the problem that we've got a K economy, that we're treating, that some income groups are doing better than other income groups, and some income groups are falling further and further behind, while some income groups are advancing far and far ahead. But he's got a big negative mark, because he's not acknowledging that we are artificially creating that income gap through using PFD cuts, the most regressive tax ever. That we're using PFD cuts as a way of raising revenues in the state.
Well, Brad, this is a Juneau bubble problem, right? I mean, they all talk about the problem, but they all refuse to look at the reasoning behind why we ended up with the problem. And usually it has to do with their spending model, or their lack of fiscal certainty, or any kind of long-termness. I mean, that's part of the problem. They can all see it. Oh, we've got this, we've got that, but none of them tie it back to their actions from 12 months, 24 months, 60 months before. They just can't see that. They always, it's like, again, it's the crisis moment. It's the, running back and forth from one side of the ship to the other, kind of thing. It's that same thing. That's part of the problem. None of them see their actions as being what is causing it.
Yeah, and actually they see themselves as part of the solution, in the sense that, we will direct money. We will direct money to childcare, for example. That'll, Julie Colomb, that will solve that will solve the issue. If we direct money to childcare, that will help support lower income Alaska families, and that will help solve the problem. Or we'll direct money in this way, or we'll direct money in that way. What they don't understand is that they're taking money out of people's pockets to do that, to redirect the money. And in taking money out of people's pockets, they're making people poorer. And in particular, they're making the lower half of the income brackets poorer. And so they think they're doing good things because they're redirecting. Well, they tell themselves they're doing good things because they're redirecting this money. And, that's supposed to help it. If we just do childcare, if we just do this, or if we just do that, that will help the situation. If we spend more, so we have more government employees, if we spend more on schools, so we have, construction jobs out in the bush, or we have more teachers out in the bush, that'll make it better. But they're making it worse. They're by taking money out of people's pockets, they're making it worse. They're making that K-shape economy when it doesn't need to be.
Quick question before we run out of time here. Do you think he's gonna see this? Do you think he's gonna hear what you're saying and realize, I've been calling for the wrong thing this whole time? I mean, is anybody gonna notice that there is a cause to this effect?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think Larry's so far down the road in terms of the government will solve the problem by taking your money and redirecting it in a better way. I think he's so far down that road that he's not going to back up and say, wait, where's this money coming from? and what are we doing to the people that we're taking it out of their pockets? I don't think he'll back up and do that. But legislators, when they go down to Juneau, they should keep a focus on the fact that we've developed this, that we have artificially in Alaska, we've artificially developed this K-shaped economy by taking money out of the pockets of the very people that can afford it least, that we're pushing them farther and farther down the income brackets by taking that money out of their pockets.
Well, and unfortunately, reversing it would take power away from the same people that caused the problem in the first place, and they're never going to relinquish that kind of control. All right, Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. That's number 2. Number 3 is Dead Ahead, the fastest 2 hours in radio, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, Brad Keithley, Alaskans for this Sustainable. But that's my problem here, Brad, is that you're making a very valid point. This is the same point that we've been making for years. And yet, who's hearing it? The handful of people, the few thousand people that may be affected by this show in the state of Alaska, but definitely the powers that be aren't hearing it. I mean, again, you look at some of the commentary from some of these legislators at this joint work session in Fairbanks, or at the press conference that they had last year. Lyman Hoffman, oh my God, we've just discovered we're in a crisis. Wait a second. Where have you been? I mean, and then you cry about it, and yet you don't see that the things that you are doing is, like you said, they see themselves as the saviors. They're going to fix it. You created it. How are you going to fix it if you won't even acknowledge that you created it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to say about that, Michael. We have virtually no revenue experts in the legislature. We have 60. If you count the staff, we have 180 spending experts. They all know where to spend it. They all know how to respond to constituents' push for spending. But we have virtually no revenue experts, people who understand the impact of taking revenue in certain ways, and the exacerbating effect on the K economy that taking it through PFD cuts have. We have virtually no one who who truly is trying to think through how do we support Alaskans best from a revenue side. If we need revenue, what's the best way to do it? What's the economically most efficient way to do it to help support the Alaska economy and Alaska households and Alaska families? We have no one who's really thinking through that. So when you get down to Juneau, everybody is, I got to spend more. I mean, they elected me to come down here and spend. That's what I get to do. I get to appropriate. And so you got 60 people down there who go, I know how to spend. We ought to spend more on this. We ought to spend more on that. And compromise to them is spending on both, maybe a little bit less than what they wanted. They compromised, right? They reduced their ask down a little bit, but they spend on both because that's what you're supposed to do as a legislator. And we got no one sitting down there going, wait, how we raise this revenue actually has a bigger impact on households than how we spend it, because spending it through childcare or through increased Medicaid, how you spend it impacts a few people in the group, but it doesn't impact everybody. If you take it as a revenue, if you take it from revenue and take it through PFD cuts, you're impacting every Alaska household out there. And we're not, and we don't really have anybody who sits down there and goes, from a revenue standpoint, it'd be better if we did it this way. I mean, there's a lot of problems down there, but that's one of them. Yeah.
Well, it's problematic. I mean, I think Brian sums it up. We've got $80 billion in the bank and we're still broke. And that's that's the same thing Joe Geldhoff said on the program yesterday with Donna Ardwin, was that, structurally the state's bankrupt. I mean, we got all this money in the bank, but we, structurally we just keep spending ourselves into oblivion. And that's why there's this desperation right now, of course, to combine the funds, because that's the last gasp. That's the final pot of money that's available for them to really draw from with any deep, meaningful way. And so that's why there's this desperation to combine those funds so they can bypass the constitutional protections, because then they can just keep going until they retire, and then it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, certainly is. I mean, it's just it's the next step in the, let's drain the SBR because things will get better. Let's drain the CBR because things will get better. Let's drain the PFDs because things will get better. And now it's, oh shit, we've gone through all of those. And now we got out of options. Oh, well, wait, we can tap into the back end we can tap into the corpus of the permanent fund, even if the permanent fund corporation isn't producing earnings sufficient to pay for the draws. We can tap into the back end of the permanent fund if we can just consolidate these two accounts together, and we can keep the party going for a few more years. And it's just it is. I mean, it's a continuation of that, and it's a continuation of that. The way to raise revenue is to raise it in a way that no one has to pay it.
Yeah.
Other than middle and lower income Alaska families through PFD cuts, but
who don't have a voice, who really don't have much of a voice in the donor class or anything else. That's what it is. All right. You also got your one explicative out of the way for the day. So
I did. It was in the middle. But you noticed
you did it. Okay. I know you. As long as you did this on purpose, I'm all okay. Because I know we get all wrapped up about it, and I just don't want to do it. But it is an oh shit moment. I mean, there's no two ways about it. That's exactly like and now you can see the look on legislators' faces when they're realizing, man, we've got a problem. But forget about. Yeah. But
even now they continue spending. I mean, the problem to them is we're not spending it in the right way. Yeah. The problem to them is we got to figure out better ways to spend it, as opposed to, wait, there is no revenue. You got to look at more efficient ways to raise the revenue.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Brad was just saying something. During the break that I thought was hysterical. It's like they don't get it. They just don't get it in the end. It's like, we just didn't spend the money correctly, right? That was the answer, Brad, is that, we just didn't spend it right, but now we're going to spend it right. It's like communism has never worked because communism has never been done just correctly. I mean, we've got dozens of examples of it failing miserably, but it's only failed because it hasn't been done right. And that's where we're at with the state budget, right? We're only spent. I'm going to spend it correctly. All the other guys ahead of me, the 5 years that I did before this, I just was doing it wrong. Now I'm going to do it right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we people get, elected, or they get hearing spots down before the legislature when they talk about, oh, we need to spend it in this direction. Childcare is my latest example, but it's a big example. We just need to spend it here, and everything will be better. Or we need to do schools better. We need to spend more on schools in this way, and everything will be better. All the while taking the revenues out of the very people who are being hurt most.
Yeah, don't worry. Defined benefits. We'll do it right this time. Right. Okay. They'll see that. All right. Number 3. Sorry. Got a little sidetracked there. Number 3. There's no there. Click Bishop on parade. What give me the rundown here.
Well, I was doing my review of papers, and there was an article in the Ketchikan Daily News, which actually has some really good news and some good editorial pieces sometimes. And there was Click had made an appearance down in Southeast, down in Ketchikan, and this article captures what Click was saying down there. And it says, there's a piece of it that says, looking at what Bishop would hope to accomplish as governor, he has 4 top planks. All right. We've spent most of this program talking about fiscal issues, right? That the core problem is we don't have any money, and we're raising the money we do have wrong. Right. We're raising it in a way that exacerbates the K economy, as opposed to, tries to be supportive of all Alaska households. We're trying to spend too much, and we don't have enough money. That's the core issue facing the state. That's the issue that everything else spends off on. So Click has 4 top planks. None of them relate to fiscal policy. Here's the first: is cheap energy. When he says cheap, the candidate says that he is thinking reliable and affordable. We need more cheap energy. And the cheap energy he's talking about is hydropower. So he's really talking about Susitna, going forward with Susitna, spending a lot of state money on additional projects where the state bears the costs, right, to reduce the delivered cost of energy to consumers. And that's his number. That's his top priority. Let's see. The second, Bishop talked about appropriate education funding and workforce development. He would like to expand and grow the career and technical education in the state while giving school districts and teachers what they need to properly educate young Alaskans, sufficient funding, equipment, and supplies. Spending. So the first priority is spending, state spending, focused on energy. Second priority is state spending, focused on appropriate education funding. The third target for the candidate would be the Arctic. We are the Arctic nation, he said, acknowledging that he is only beginning to explore potential policy regarding the Arctic. While mentioning the Arctic and Arctic icebreakers, Bishop brought up the Alaska Marine Highway System, which is not in the Arctic. But nonetheless, the third topic is the Arctic. Okay, we're an Arctic nation, we are. But what does that mean in terms of policy? Well, I'm going to think about that. Is basically, but it's an important plank. It's one of the 4 important planks.
And he said, supporting that, he said that would be costly, he acknowledged, but you've got to realize the amount of money that you lost without a stable highway system. I mean, we're going to spend money to make money.
Yep, exactly. And the fourth, and we're going to spend it in the Arctic because that's big. That's one of my 4 planks. And the fourth plank is improving fisheries throughout the state. Okay, I got to admit, improving fisheries is important. We've got a problem in the fishing economy, and we've got a problem from a number of respects in the fishing economy, and that's an important thing to do in the state. And it probably does deserve to be in the 4 planks. But fiscal policy certainly deserves to be one of those planks. Certainly, I'm looking, other people are looking for candidates on what their solutions are to the fiscal situation the state's gotten into. And Click doesn't think it's important enough even to be elevated to one of his 4 planks. So it's there's no there. I mean, you got a candidate who's running, who's got endorsements, who's got a background, who's got a campaign staff, who's out there running, but there's no there when you look at his platform, and when you look at what he thinks are the important issues facing the state. They're not addressing the critical issues that are facing the state. So, this may become our series of disqualifying candidates. We may go one by one through and say there's no reason to follow this candidate anymore.
No, it's the same thing that we were just talking about. This is a guy who's been on Senate Finance forever. I mean, again, cause and effect, not realizing cause and effect. I mean, he has no fiscal plan, never had a fiscal plan when he was on Senate Finance either. So, I mean, this is the same kind of thing we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, how do I spend money? I spend money through state subsidizing energy, through the state creating new energy by hydro projects and other projects. I spend state money to do that. I spend state money on education, because that's my second most important plank. The Arctic's important. Don't know why it's important. Don't know, but we are an Arctic nation, and so that's important. And so we probably have to spend a lot of money on that somehow. We certainly do on the Marine Highway. We have to spend more money there. And the fourth is fisheries. And again, I acknowledge fisheries is important. We need to get our arms around that. But that's not the overriding thing facing state government right now.
And he even turned the fisheries issue into a spending issue, because he said, I put in genetic testing last year in the Senate Finance and the government. So again, it's all about spending and funding. And that's what it's all about. That's his whole campaign is about spend. A chicken in every pot, a moose in every oven. And there you go. No idea how to pay for any of it. We got about 80 seconds here, Brad. Final thoughts. What are you looking at for next week? Give it to me real quick.
Oh, well, the governor's budget will be next week, or later this week, actually, either on Friday or next Monday. I don't have high hopes. I'm not holding out high hopes. He really hasn't done a lot of preparation that you would do if you were going to have, take some responsible revenue steps as part of the budget. So I'm sort of looking at a continuation of what we've done in the past, with the exception that oil prices are going down, and so oil revenues are going down. So that's going to be, it's going to be an even more, when people talk about the deficits that Dunleavy, how many years are in the red out there in the future, we may add a couple more years to his 10-year forecast that remain in the red.
Yeah, even the legislators are realizing his budget may be flat or less. So it's going to be an interesting session. Let's just put it that way. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. Brad, thank you so much. As always, it's great to hear from you.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
Hour 2 dead ahead, my friends. We'll be back with more right after this. And Timothy drops the perfect quote into the chat room based on everything that we just said. Nothing will be fixed, and here's the reason why. Government is the great fiction through which everybody endeavors to live at the expense of everybody else. And that's a Frederick Bastiat quote. And that's the perfect example. That's what we saw in that whole article in Fairbanks. They want to live at the expense. The state has to pay for it. It's not we want it, but the state should pay for it. The state wants it. Well, we want it, but the feds should pay for it. The feds, we want it, and we'll just borrow a bunch of money to pay for it. Right? I mean, that's it's somebody else will pay for it. The future generations will pay for it. We are living in those, Orwellian dystopian type of times right now, because nobody's willing to take the bull by the horns and say, we've got to get a handle on this at any level, Brad.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Michael. And it's not only that. I mean, the really bizarre thing out of this is we recognize we're living in times where there are people, where there is we have a K-shaped economy where we've got a bracket of people who are not doing, they're not even staying at even. They're dropping over the course of the last 13 years. We've seen lower income families, low middle and lower income Alaska families drop below 100%, drop below the standard they had in 2010. We recognize that, but something stops us from recognizing why that is, from recognizing that it's the way, at least in Alaska, it's the way in which we're taking revenue. It's the way in which we're developing revenue. And it's just, it's frustrating to see people think through issues halfway and then stop, and then sort of like, what bird is it that I can't remember the bird, but the bird that really just sort of doesn't develop its own nest, just keeps borrowing other birds' nests.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know what you're talking about, but I don't recall either. But yeah.
We don't have people understanding that the revenue side, the way in which we've constructed the revenue side, is a big part of the problem of what we've done to this economy. They stop halfway through and say, well, there's a problem, and it's government that needs to solve it. Okay, you're almost there. Think through how government is making this problem worse and how we could solve it. Then they stop there, and we need to spend more. We need to spend more in terms of, Click Bishop, in terms of energy. We need to spend more in terms of education. We need to spend more in terms of the Arctic. It's just it's always, you always recognize a problem, but they think the solution to the problem must be spending. We're just not spending it right, so we need to layer on additional spending to address this problem. We need revenue experts that understand the impact of various revenue options on households and on families, and understand where this revenue is cut, and why the revenue design, the revenue program that we have is making this problem worse. It's not spending that's the problem. It's the way in which we're deriving the revenue to fund the spending.
Right.
That's the problem.
I would still argue that spending is the problem, because when you spend, this would all be solved if we just spent less than we take in. And unfortunately, we don't. So spending is the problem. But you're right. I understand what you're saying in that regard. We have to understand where the revenue comes from, and you're making the problem worse in the way that you're spending. But ultimately, the spending is the problem. We've got too much damn spending. The rent's too damn high, essentially. And we're spending too much of it, and nobody's willing. And again, this is at every level, national, local, state level. We're just spending more money than we're taking in. And the borough mayor in Fairbanks, in that article, lamenting the fact that they can't tax people on the first $150,000 value of their home in the exemption, that they're losing out on a ton of money by not being able to do that. What? This is it's nuts. This is what's going on today.
Yeah. Well, it's how we've sort of evolved, I guess. And the evolution is, I want to spend on this, you want to spend on that. Let's compromise. We'll both spend. We just won't spend quite as much as we would have if we'd just been able to spend on this alone. We don't have economists thinking through these issues. We don't have people who are thinking about the full issue. They sort of get halfway through, and they sort of like halfway building the nest, and they just stop, and they don't think through the complete issue and the implications of the way in which, in this case, the way in which they're raising the revenue.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. And yeah, Grier Hopkins did basically say, because Brian just said losing out. Is that what? Yeah, basically said losing out on, that revenue that they could have gotten if they could just tax the people a little more on top of that. This is, again, they'll spend every available. It's Parkinson's principle for government. Government spending will expand to consume all available monies. And that's exactly what we've got right here. All right, Brad. So next week, governor's budget, and I'll let you do your top 3, and then we'll take one extra segment, and we can do Christmassy stuff. Okay.
All right.
Now you don't have to do 3 segments. Merry Christmas. You don't have to do 3 segments on Christmas. You only have to do one extra one. Okay. So it's
I can handle that. I can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, I knew you could. All right, my friends. It's good to talk with you. We will see you later. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for coming on board. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. That does it for me. I've got some thoughts. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Duke Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my friends, and welcome to it. It is the Michael Duke Show, broadcasting live. We are ready to go here. 9th of December. We are only, we're only 14 days away, 15 days away now from Christmas Eve. So I hope you got all your Christmas shopping done. If not, I've been cajoling you. Once you get it done, it'll feel so much better. There won't be any. I bought my final present yesterday. My final present. I have one more to buy in town, but my final present that I bought out of town yesterday, and I feel pretty darn good about it. I feel good. So don't sweat it. Also, don't forget that the 19th of this month, Friday the 19th, will be the final show of the year for us. We'll be on hiatus from the 22nd of December, Monday the 22nd, all the way through the new year, which means we'll be returning to the airwaves on the 5th of January. It's my normal time where I take off that Christmas to New Year time frame, and I took a couple extra days at the very beginning because I haven't had a day off in a year. So I'm go, and so we're going to enjoy that and take a little time. I hope you take some time with your family as well, and just relax a little bit and get everything down. Let your hair down. There'll be alternate programming tomorrow on the 22nd through the 5th, so you can enjoy it there. But again, we will be off the air from December the 22nd to January the 5th. Will be the first day back for us there. And Terry's crying in the chat room. I'm sorry. It's not like anything really big is going to happen between Christmas and New Year's, right? I mean, I started doing this like 10, 12 years ago. And the reason is because there was the show was always so struggle bus between Christmas and New Year's because there was just nothing happening. Everybody's at home with their families, no real politics. It's just one of those things. It's one of those things. Coming up tomorrow on the program, we're going to be joined by Zachary Christensen from the Reason Foundation. He's going to be with us in hour 1 to talk about the defined benefits program. he's one of the guys from the Reasons, what do they call it? The Responsibility Project, or anyway, they deal with retirement plans. And he's, I think, one of the people that was that put together that presentation in front of the legislature to talk about the proposed defined benefits plan. So it's going to be fun. That's tomorrow morning, and then in hour 2, we're working on a guest. I'm trying to get Dave Bronson on the program, but if it doesn't come through for tomorrow, Miguel is asking in the chat room, can we have a call in tomorrow with callers? Sure, we'll do that. We can do that. We'd love to participate, and we'll have some time. And then next week, it's going to be, well, mostly all Christmas. I was going to say all Christmas all the time, but it's going to be mostly Christmas. I told Brad that he can have his weekly top 3 because the governor's budget's coming out. But Monday, we're going to do Christmas movies and shows and things like that. Christmassy, things that we're going to do, our favorite shows and movies. Then on Tuesday, we'll have Brad. He'll do his plus his Christmas favorites. Chris Story will come on and do his Christmas favorites a segment early, and then follow up with some PMA. Then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about Christmas music and traditions. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about Christmas recipes, because we'll be announcing the winner of our holiday recipe contest, which I forgot to tell you. Holiday recipe contest is now up and running on my Facebook page. So if you have a recipe that is a family favorite, maybe something that's, and I don't mean the normal turkey stuff, I'm looking for something unusual that is specific to your family. In my, for example, in the Christmas contest, if you go look at the post, I've included my Grandma Faye's pumpkin pie recipe, which is a pumpkin pie unlike any one that I've ever had anywhere. It is delicious. It's like a chiffon, normally pumpkin pie is like this condensed, thick, gelatinous, thing, where hers is light and fluffy and whipped, and it's so good. So if you've got a recipe like that, that's a family recipe that you had for years, that you've always enjoyed, you can post it up as a comment on the post, and then the other viewers, you as a viewer, can go in there and look at the recipes, and whoever gets the most likes on their recipes is going to win. So and they're going to win a coffee mug. And if I can swing it, I'm out of coffee, but I might see if I can get a bag of beard curler coffee though as well. I gotta go see about that. So anyway, that is the plan for the recipe contest. We're going to be announcing the winner on the 19th. So you've got 10 days to go out there and share it, and then tell all your friends to go out and vote on your recipe. So it's over at facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. If you want to put your recipe up there, or vote on a recipe, or just go through there and steal all the recipes, which is what we did. We did one year we did the oyster stuffing. That was one of the great recipes there. One year we got the cornbread stuffing, and then we did one year it was a side. It was a Brussels sprout side, and some other things. And I will also probably put up one of my family's favorite traditions for Christmas morning is we make Christmas crepes, what we call Christmas crepes, which are strawberry, ricotta, cream cheese filled crepes every morning, Christmas morning. We don't do it every year, but a lot of years we do it. My dad does it every year. And I will put that recipe up in the comments for folks who want to enjoy that as well. It is so good. And then, of course, one year I put up my dad's Burma brown sugar ham which is I just actually cooked one the other day because we had some frozen hams in the freezer, and so I cooked a bourbon ham the other day, and it is delicious, absolutely delicious. So anyway, we're going to put all that we'll put all that in the recipe contest, and whoever wins is going to get themselves a 6 o'clock club mug and more. So go fly, be free, go put your recipes in. That's the good stuff. All right. I think is that all my housekeeping? Man, I've been busy. One more thing. If you live down on the Southern Peninsula in the area, within driving distance of Homer, don't forget on the 21st, Sunday, the 21st, the radio stations are sponsoring a showing of A Muppet Christmas Carol, which is one of our family's favorite movies. I'm sure we'll talk about that next Monday, but it's one of our family's favorite movies, and it's going to be showing at the Porcupine Theater at 1 p.m. on the 21st of December, Sunday the 21st. And if you want to get a chance to win a pair of tickets, you can go to our event page at facebook.com/KGTL The Answer, and you can post a comment there, and I'm going to pick one lucky winner for a pair of tickets. There you go. So there you go. Did your dad send you the recipe list? No. I mean, those are recipes that we've had. Although we keep having to send the recipes back and forth to each other. When we moved, my wife was like, I can't find this one box that had a bunch of recipes in it, and we still can't find it. So it's it's one of those things. Well, I will tell you here, one of the things that I want to gripe about a little bit, since we're just going to, bitch and moan and complain here this morning, is this article in the Fairbanks Daily News Monitor. I'm not complaining about the article as much as I'm complaining about the content, what Brad was just talking about. These legislators sitting up there, these assembly members sitting up there in front of legislators and just basically telling them, we need more money. That's essentially what this whole article is about. It's in the News Monitor from yesterday. Joint Assembly Lawmaker Session highlights grim fiscal picture. That's the headline. And interestingly enough, I mean, they're quoting people like Ashley Carrick and Scott Kawasaki on the left, but also Rob Myers and Mike Prax on the right, who were all basically saying this is not going to be good. Ashley Carrick is quoted as saying, our fiscal situation is beyond dire. She noted the state faces a fiscal cliff and hard choices ahead. And yet the response from the assembly members was, sucks to be you, right? I mean, that's kind of the Mike Prax was more blunt than anybody else. He argued that some of the borough's priorities, such as increased education spending, would leave no room for capital or stronger pension reforms. Again, it's a give and take, right? It's a push and pull kind of situation right now. You take from one, you got to give to the other. You got to take from the one. But Assembly Member Christian Kelly was equally blunt, stating that she's heard the same argument for 20 years. It sounds really stale. She added that shifting of the weight towards municipalities, meaning you pay your own way, has become an unfair system. These are the folks that are these are your elected officials, you folks up there in Fairbanks. It has become unfair. I'm going to talk a little bit about this more here in just a moment. Yeah, well, don't even get me on deferred maintenance, Miguel. We're going to talk a little because that comes up. That's brought up in this thing. And yeah, we're going to have some thoughts on that in just a moment. We'll be back. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. It's a beautiful Tuesday. 30 below at my folks' house this morning in Fairbanks. 16 degrees here in Homer. That's Alaska for you. Back with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Miguel is out here just, he's poking the bear. What about deferred maintenance? Man, you're really getting me all wound up about this. But this whole article in the News Miner just gives you a snapshot into the mindset. And I'm sure it's not just Fairbanks, right? I'm sure this is not just a Fairbanks problem, but boy, golly, howdy, it sure points to a lot of the problems that we have here. It sure points to a lot of the problems that we have as a society here in the state of Alaska. This entitlement mentality of, well, we just, we need to, we need to, bring it, it's us, right? This whole, it's become an unfair system, right? That shifting the weight towards municipalities that is if you give them money, says Barbara, they won't spend it on maintenance. They want dollars. They want $33 million for an animal shelter and a $4 million ski chalet. That's what they want. This is part of the problem right here. Rick says, what happened to the story about the Native Corp construction bidding, shuffling money being investigated? Yeah, we could talk about that as well. That's a big story right now. That's going to cause some real problems just in the compliance issue of that. Whether or not any of the Alaska Native corporations did anything wrong or not, the fact that they're going to be facing this tremendous amount of compliance and the cost in man hours and dollars, and that's going to be amazing. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. Yeah, Brian said, wah, unfair. Oh, man. I know. This whole thing is just super whiny. The whole thing is just crazy. All they want is more, is more. They want, I'll wait. I don't want to repeat myself. But wow. Just wow. And this whole thing with Grier Hopkins. Oh my God. This guy. I agree. MD just loses his mind. Well, it was a pet peeve of mine. You got to understand, I was on the borough assembly when this whole thing was coming to light about deferred maintenance and about what we needed for these buildings. And, that we knocked down a school that we were still paying. We still had 10 years worth of bond debt on. And they wanted to build a new school. They were just bound and determined to build a new school. And so they knocked down a building that we still owed 10 years worth of bond debt on, and then went into debt, a bonded debt for a brand new school across the parking lot to add another 20 years onto the bonded debt. I mean, it never ends, folks. It just never ends. It's a jobs program for construction and all these other companies that are out there. I've told the story a million times, but I'll tell it again. I remember when I was working, doing some business, part-time business with Frank DeLong at his sign shop there. And I remember he was getting the trade magazine from the Association of General Contractors, their trade publication. And right on the cover, the trade publication, it said, selling schools to your local community. And it was a whole article about how you needed to sell the community on why they needed new schools. Why? Because the Association of General Contractors wanted to get paid to build new buildings. Right? They don't want to maintain. They want to knock them down and build new ones. You don't get nearly the money out of maintaining a school as you do about building a new one. I mean, what? Yeah. That was Nordale School. Nordale School. Debbie says, I can't remember the name of the school. Nordale School. All right, here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, we're continuing our discussion about what's going on with the Fairbanks Borough Assembly and their meeting. Joint Assembly lawmakers session highlights grim fiscal picture. Yeah, I mean, they're all acknowledging it. Again, Ashley Carrick, our fiscal situation is dire. You know, state faces a fiscal cliff and hard choices ahead. Kawasaki said he expects that the governor's budget, which hasn't been released yet, but should be by next Friday? By Monday. Monday is the deadline. So expected Friday, sometime between Friday and Monday. He expects the governor's budget to be flat. He said every day we look at oil prices dwindling. I mean, President Trump has said he wants to get gas down below $3. You know, the way you get gas down below $3, you drive the price of oil down below $50. Great for the consumer, bad for the state of Alaska. So then they go on to talk about, again, tens of millions of dollars that's going to be missing. But this is the classic. While assembly members argued that public schools would benefit from greater funding after years of flat state funding and tens of millions in cuts. What cuts? What cuts are you talking about? Flat funding, you could make an argument for because it was virtually flat. It went up 1 or 2 points. It was not over a 10-year period. There was not a big increase in the BSA. But what tens of millions in cuts? Every year they were putting 20, 50, 70, $100 million into the kitty. One of the chief of staffs, I don't know, who is it? Odo is the chief of staff for Will Staff, Bernard Ado, noted that the borough's education request, because they wanted an increase in education funding, surprise, surprise, would require the Alaska legislature to find $280 million. $280 million for the Fairbanks request alone. But they want it. Again, Kristen Kelly. Oh, it sounds really stale. That argument is old. Just shut up and give me my $2. Again, saying that moving the weight towards municipalities, meaning having municipalities pay for what they use or pay for the programs that they want, it has become an unfair system. Are you kidding me? Paying for what you consume is an unfair system. We have had a free lunch in this state for way too long, where the state has basically bailed out municipalities time after time, given them more money. I saw the same thing when I was on the assembly. Why do we want to do this program? Well, the state's going to give us free money to do it. Well, that's great, but why do we? Is this something that the citizenry is asking for? No, but it would be a great program, isn't it? Well, sure, great, if they asked for it. If they asked for it. Then you get this gem. This is a quote from Borough Mayor Grier Hopkins. They start talking about the reimbursement of school bond debt. They requested a full reimbursement of school bond debt, which has not been done since 2015. And I'm just telling you now, it's not going to be. It's not going to be reimbursed at the full rate that it was. I mean, you can ask. They also asked to be held harmless against any increased share in paying for unfunded liabilities of legacy existing retirement system debt. What? They want any increased share. Remember, the municipalities are still paying for the tier 1 through 3 PERS and TERS, the defined benefits. They're still paying back that liability. There's still, $6-7 billion in unfunded liability for the previous defined benefits program. So they want to be held harmless against any increased share in paying for those unfunded liabilities. And then they talk about the exemptions, the property tax exemptions for different groups. And that includes retirees, people in veterans. There's exemptions on your first $150,000 in property value, right? A homeowner's exemption. Grier Hopkins said this. He said those exemptions account for $1.13 billion in property value that the borough can assess, and for $11.5 million in lost revenue that they can't collect under the current property mill rate. Can you just hear the sorrow in his voice when he's talking about that? Because what he's really saying is, man, that's $11 million I'd really like to get my hands on. That's what he's saying. Look at this. This is $1 billion in property we can't assess. Oh, we need to be able to do that. He's frothing at the mouth to do this. Miguel in the chat room says, yes, Grier stated if you want higher exemptions, you have to increase property taxes. He's coming for the tax cap next. They already tried to overrun the tax cap. And instead, what did they do? They drew $10 million out of savings to pay for all their wish list stuff this last year, which can't be done again. But can't you see it? It's $1 billion in property values that the borough can assess. Oh, we really would like to. That's $11 million in revenue we could pull in. This is what's going on in Fairbanks, folks. And this is not just a Fairbanks problem. I guarantee you. This is every borough in the state is having these same discussions right now. What are our legislative priorities? What is our Christmas wish list? What is our Christmas wish list for the state? Let's ask it now. And the legislators, at least in the Fairbanks area, are saying, hey, kids, there's nothing but coal in the bag. Clean burning coal. Clean Usabelli burning coal. But nothing but coal in this bag. There is no more money. Assuming a flat budget, because that's what the governor's 10-year forecasts essentially do. They're a very rosy when they make those projections, they're using very rosy assumptions that it's going to be essentially flat. But even with a flat budget, we're $1 billion in the hole. $1.5 billion. Not to mention the supplemental budget from this year, which again, by some estimates, I've heard anywhere from $200 to $250 million in supplementals that you have to add to the deficit for next year, because again, we're paying up for this year for next. You know what I mean? I just don't understand. Why is it so hard for politicians to understand that you can't keep spending more than you're taking in and expect that it's going to work out okay. I guess because they don't really care. It just forces you to back everybody into a corner. And then when you back them into a corner, then you just raise their property taxes. Is that it? Because you know you'll eventually get the money out of them somehow. But Grier, oh man, look at all this property that we can't tax. That just shows you the appetite for what we're talking about here. And Kristen Kelly I'm so sick of your argument that you just don't have any money. We know you've got the money. Just give me my $2. Get new revenues. She said, we need new revenues. We all know oil revenue is down and dependence on it at the state level is problematic. Yes, you may be able to get a few more dollars out of the oil companies. But again, the problem here is not a revenue problem. The problem is a spending problem. And you've had a spending problem for so long that now you have a revenue problem on top of the spending problem. Because now there are no more buckets of money to draw from. You've exhausted the CBR. You've exhausted the SBR. You've consumed the majority of the PFD. I mean, I suppose you could tap into, last year they tapped into the Higher Education Endowment Fund. Right? They pulled a couple $100 million out of that. I'm sure they could pull a couple $100 million or maybe $500 million out of the PCE. I'm sure that there's some other buckets of money, maybe AHFC or ADIA or somebody else has got some money in some of their accounts that they could draw from. But pretty much you're down to the dribs and drabs. Yeah, Melissa says that we've spent ourselves into a revenue problem. I mean, this whole thing at this point is just people do not understand that you cannot have everything at the expense of everybody's money because there is a finite amount. But they just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that there's a problem. They don't want to hear, oh, that's just stale news. That's just old. I'm tired of hearing that argument. You know, boy, that's what my wife said to me when I said, no groceries this week because we're out of money. Oh, I'm tired of hearing that argument. Right? I mean, who does that? And yeah, they drew half of this. I mean, essentially, they drew about half of the savings out of the borough savings account. That $10 million, I think they only had $22 million or something in that account. And they just drew half of it down this last year because they couldn't cut anymore. And they were up against the tax cap. Here's the thing. The wheels are eventually going to come off the bus. Maybe not now. Maybe it's another 5 years. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. I guess it depends on if they get their hands on the permanent fund itself or not. But I mean, the wheels are going to come off the bus. The music will stop. The biggest thing is that most of these jokers won't be in the room anymore. They'll have done their turn and gone off and beat their chest and say what a good job they did and then move on. Or they're retired or gone to Hawaii like Gary or whoever. You know, I'm out of the legislature. You know, again, you see all these people dipping out of the legislature. And I think some of them are like, it's because, this is going to be, I don't want to be here when the yogurt hits the oscillating rotor. Right? I don't want to be here when the music stops and there's 60 of us and there's 3 chairs. I don't want to be here. And I'm blue in the face, right? I've been screaming this from the rooftops, from the mountaintops for years. Nobody listens. You guys listen, but none of the legislator and the average electorate, the average voter is not paying attention close enough to really understand any of the. If you have a conversation with anybody in the general public who's just kind of an average voter who doesn't really, you start talking about this stuff, dude, they either get wide-eyed, like white around the eyes, scared, or their eyes just glaze over. I mean, just Crazy. You got Lyman Hoffman, you got Gary Stevens, you got a bunch of these guys dipping out, and they've been the part of the problem this whole time. Because these are some of the guys that have been in finance, Click Bishop. These are the guys that have been in control of the purse strings. I mean, we got other legislators, right? But they're the ones that are truly in control right there at finance committees. They're the ones that are dipping out and be like, no, I'm done. Because I think they could see the handwriting on the wall. All right. Well, we need some positivity. We need some positivity. Let's go over there and check it out. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're taking Tuesday Doomsday. We're taking it to bright and sunshiny Tuesday with Chris Story up next.
What is that?
Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. Frank says, I don't believe that there's any evidence that legislators are leaving because of budget issues. Well, I mean, there's no hard proof. I mean, nobody said, I'm leaving because I screwed the pooch on this and spent all the money and now I don't want to be here when the bill comes due. You're right, Frank. I'm just assuming. But I certainly wouldn't want to be standing there if I'd been in charge of the finance committee for 5 years or been part of it for 5 or 10 years. And now the wheels are all coming off the bus because of the way we spent. I certainly wouldn't want to be the guy. I wouldn't want to be that guy. Know what I mean? It's crazy. Miguel says, yes, Mike, I had that conversation the other day with an average voter and they were not tracking the tax cap, et cetera. I explained how important it is that they vote to keep the tax cap next. Yeah, but again, they're just not paying attention, Miguel. Most people are just so busy trying to make a living, caring about their own things. And they just go along to, yeah, sure. They just nod. I'll vote for whoever. They'll pull the lever and then they move on. People are just not engaged. And that's, I mean, we keep hearing about the 3% movement, right? It was the 3% was the revolution and blah, blah, blah. 97% are just not paying attention. And I think that number is probably pretty accurate. 97% are just not paying attention. They're just living their lives. They go out, they do their duty by voting, and then they don't think about it for another year or 2 or 5 or whatever. Anyway, try not to get too worked up about this. Let's do this. Let's bring in Mr. Story. They call him Mr. Chris Story, the man from Homer. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I think you're going to have to change that to the men from Homer when we're together now.
The men from Homer. We're together? Oh, tell my wife.
Well, come on.
Yeah.
How you doing?
How you doing there, my friend? What's going on with you?
Superbly on top of the world, ensconced here in my library, just waiting, biding my time for you to make a little room for me.
I've done it. I've moved over, and it's all Chris Story all the time. Audrey says, thank goodness for Chris Story. He bails us out every week. Melissa says, bring on the positivity. Need some goodness. So my better looking brother from another mother, Chris Story. What are we going to talk about this week?
Who in 2 parts? You know what?
Yeah.
Actually, it's the Christmas season. I think we should call this Whoville.
Whoville. Who in 2 parts? Whoville. All right.
Yeah, I don't think Dr. Seuss's estate will sue us.
Yeah, no. Okay, good. Harold says you're Alaska's Kevin Spacey. I don't know why. I don't know quite how to take that.
I think we know how to take it. Harold's disturbed. We know it. He needs help, and this is what I'm here for. I'm here to help people like Harold.
You're
He
here.
just got
You're here to
15
help.
minutes too.
Yeah, he just got it because I called him out. He just got it. Positivity and coffee, says Brian. That's what we're all about. Time for hope, says Miguel, and let's all get into that Christmas spirit. So are you prepped for next week? Because next week you're going to do a whole segment before your normal segment on Christmas memories, your favorite Christmas movies, all your Christmas favorites, right? You're ready to do it?
Perfect. You bet. Always.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, good. So next week, because I'm attempting next week to do with the exception of Brad Keithley and maybe a little Firearms Friday, but we're going to do nothing but kind of feel good Christmas stuff all week long. So it's going to be.
Well, why not with Brad? He doesn't have to be a Grinch every week, does he?
Well, no. Brad is going to do it, but boy, he was really struggling. It's just, that's not his. He's going to do one segment at the beginning of the second hour after he does his first three. He's going to do one segment that's his favorite Christmas memory. So he's going to do it right before you. So, all right. It was just way too painful for him to try and do 3 segments of Christmas. Oh man, it's got to be crazy. Anyway, all right. Well, we're about to jump back into it. We're 5 seconds out. Chris Story is our guest. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bells. Do it.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry.
You know what I hate? When I change the timer and I forgot to put the extra minute in there. That's what I hate. I hate when I forget to put the extra minute in there because that means that we're a minute early. So we're 36 seconds out. Don't forget to like and share. Don't forget to drop your favorite recipe over on our Facebook page for the recipe contest. Facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. It's the pinned comment at the top of the page there with it's got all the food and everything. Post your favorite family recipe there and you could win. So give it. Story, can you give away one of your books to a lucky listener for Christmas? Maybe we can do that next week. Maybe Chris can give away a lucky story. I'll do that. We'll give away a book. I don't care what Chris says. We'll do it. Here we go.
I got 4-pack.
Public enema number 1. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number 1, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
You heard it here first. Chris Story is going to give away a 4-pack of his books next week on the program. You heard it. You heard it here. That's what I heard him say. Did you guys all hear that? We're going to do it next week. Next week, Chris is going to be on for an early segment with Christmas wishes and everything. Or maybe he can do the positivity in the first segment and the Christmas wishes. I don't know, whatever. He's going to be with us next week. Today, though, in honor of Dr. Seuss, we're going to talk about Whoville. Who in 2 parts. Chris Story, one of the men from Homer. Hello, my friend. How are you?
This is a combination. I think I would say it's this way. I would describe it as this is Dr. Seuss meets AC/DC.
Okay, that's one I wasn't expecting for. Back in black and green eggs and ham. What? I mean,
now it's a Who Made Who and Whosville. So Who Made Who is one of my favorite AC/DC songs. Not yours, obviously. Okay. You're a Back in Black guy.
Yeah, I like Back in Black. Thunderstruck's another great one. I mean, there's Who Made Who. Yeah. They're all good. I mean, I like them.
Who Made Who fits my narrative for today. So if you'll indulge me, we'll pretend this is your favorite song as well.
We'll run with it.
It's not just a great song. It was also, by the way, a theme track in one of the worst movies ever made. It was written, directed, and produced by Stephen King called, what was it called? It's about the machines that take over. What was that called?
Maximum Overdrive?
Yes.
Maximum Overdrive. Yep.
Terrible movie. Stephen King even admitted that it was a terrible movie, terrible script, terrible everything. But Emilio Estevez was pretty good in the movie as an actor. But other than that, it was pretty bad. But so my point is this: one of the 7 spokes on the Wheel of Life and Wealth in my book, which will be given away next week, The Schoolyard Millionaire, is who, and it comes in 2 parts because it's about who you are and who you're becoming in life, but also who you surround yourself with. Jim Rohn said you'll become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think that's true. Charlie Tremendous Jones added to it, you'll become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with and the 5 books you read. So we'll solve half of that equation next week and give away 4 books. But who are you spending time with? And that isn't today, because of our technology, it isn't just who you hang out with at the coffee shop. It's not just who you hang out with at work. Who you spend time with is by choice on what you listen to on the radio, who you listen to on podcasts, who are you reading, what websites are you going to? Because there's always a who behind the website. It isn't just a website. There are people that have good or ill intentions for your day, and their design of their whole day is about an algorithm and feeding into your life. So who you surround yourself with is incredibly important, as important as who you are becoming on this great journey of life. And who you're becoming is influenced by who you hang out with, but also
Right.
the corollary to that is who you're pouring into, whose lives are you pouring into each day.
Right. No, I mean your life and the formation of you as a person is informed by all those around you. I mean, what's the old axiom of who you are today and who you are in 5 years is made up of the people you associate with and the books you read. I mean, what is your input? Is it garbage in and garbage out, or is it good stuff in, good stuff out?
Yeah, precisely. And I use the term who underneath the wheel of wealth because I truly believe that is an aspect of wealth. It's not measurable, it's not taxable, it's not it's not divisible. So it's not actually currency, but it is. I think it's actually the lifeblood of life. The real currency of life is who you have in your life, who you contribute to. And for example, today, people are going to be traveling all over Homer, and I'm sure this is happening in communities across the country today. They're going to be delivering spaghetti. People, businesses, companies are buying spaghetti dinners and lunches for their crew, and that money that's raised is going to go to Share the Spirit, which is going to feed hungry people. It's going to buy toys for kids that don't have the opportunity to otherwise have a Christmas. And so that is all those people, hundreds of people today are going to be working in concert together to make other people's lives better tomorrow. That is wealth. That is currency. That's the currency of living in a great place where people care for each other. And that happens every day across the country. And I don't think we see that in the headlines. It's not something that's going to make the front page. But it's really important that who are you contributing to, who is in your life, and who are you becoming? And then who are you measuring your life against? Outside expectations, what the world suggests you should look like, sound like, do, what you ought to have by now. By this age, you better have accomplished X, Y, Z, whatever it is. Or is your measurement against who you used to be? Are you better than you were yesterday? And where are you going tomorrow? Those are the metrics that really lead to a meaningful life.
No, I mean, and I agree. And again, the who you are and who you are becoming and the who you pour yourself into, those are, that is the main question I think people should be asking themselves. I mean, we all hear it when we're growing up, right? I don't want you hanging out with the wrong crowd. Oh, those kids are a bad influence. Oh, this group is, this is, and that it all comes back to that same idea of, well, it's because you are who you associate with, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why it's important to analyze this and come back to it.
Over the weekend, I was up at the Nutcracker Fair selling books and meeting. It's just an incredible opportunity to visit with 500 of your closest friends. And one of the coolest things was this young woman approached my booth, and she I could just tell. Sometimes you can tell somebody's at the cusp of they don't want to quite say something, but it's right under the surface. And I said, you know, do you write? And she said, yeah, I do. And she's working on a book and working on getting it finished and hopefully to get it published. And so I was encouraging her to, kind of go a couple different directions. Then I said, and be careful who you share your story with, because it's not for everybody. And if you share your story, just like your goals, if you share it too soon with the wrong people, you get feedback that might quash your dream in its infancy. So, for example, if you shared Michael Dukes, if let's say you wrote a fantasy book and you shared it with me, I I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to like it if I read it. It's just not my thing. I'm the wrong person to share that with. Likewise, if you have big goals, aspirational goals, and you want to accomplish something that's a little scary, it's outside your family's comfort zone. Nobody in your family's ever done X, Y, or Z. And you get, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to accomplish this. And you share this with the wrong people. It's like counting your money over an open sewer. You could lose the dream because that might scare them, or they might want to protect you from yourself and say, whoa, hold on a second. Are you sure you can do that? What gives you the right to think you could do that, or with your education or lack of? And so you have to be careful who you share your dreams with. It's not that they don't love you. Maybe they love you so much that they're going to try to protect you again from yourself and from who you wish to become. Or more importantly, they're trying to protect you from the pain of failure. But if you don't
Right.
fail, you don't grow. You got to fall to learn to crawl and walk.
Can I twist this just a little bit, this who thing just a little bit? Because I think another thing that's important is, who you get advice from. And this is kind of plays back into what you were just talking about, going to your family or somebody that may not be ready for what you're presenting them. But you need to find somebody who's a mentor, who can give advice, who's non-biased, who can do those things. You need that kind of, so you got to think about that as a who as well. So when you're thinking about who do I bounce my dreams or my ideas off of, you've got to find the appropriate mentor in that genre or in that vein to be able to talk to them as well.
And that's the wonderful thing about technology today. It's almost like an electronic leash in your pocket. Some people would become addicted to the phones and the dopamine hit of social media and everything else. And that's a risk. And that's something that comes also with a reward, though, is connectivity. It's easier today to connect with people around the world and around history and throughout time than ever before. You can have a book that was written 120 years ago in your hand in seconds of hearing about it, versus the old days of maybe hoping if the library could possibly get a copy and delivered in a few weeks, and then you got to bring it back or order it from your bookstore. So there's technology has brought who into your life closer than ever. But to your point, be careful about who that mentor is, because you want to go down a path that's designed by you, for you, and who you want to become.
60 seconds, Chris. Final thoughts for today on who makes who from Whoville.
I think giving yourself a little grace for who you used to be. I think a lot of us are still dragging around the ghosts of mistakes of life past. And I say give yourself some grace and let go of them. If you hadn't made those mistakes, or you hadn't been who you used to be, you wouldn't be who you are today. And more importantly, who you are today is guiding who you're going to become tomorrow. So absent those mistakes, you wouldn't be who you are. So just live with the scars, and just they're reminders, but you don't have to dwell on them. So give yourself some grace and forgive you for who you used to be in an effort to become who you want to be.
And thank you to Chris for bringing back the Share the Spirit. I forgot I meant to mention that this morning. Today, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Homer's Elks Lodge. It's a spaghetti feed, and it all goes to help support Share the Spirit with the holiday baskets and the food for the Christmas time. You can go down from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Homer Elks Lodge. Or you can also call ahead today till 1:30 for a to-go order, 235-2127. It's another way to help the community. Chris Story, we'll see you next week, my friend. We appreciate you. We thank you for coming on board. As always, it's great to talk with you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, out of time for today. Tomorrow, Zachary Christensen from Reason Magazine. Be kind, love one another, live well. All right. Any final thoughts here, Chris, before I let you go? Since you're still on the line there. Anything else?
No, I'm thrilled that you're helping put the word out about the spaghetti feed. We've got two people from our company driving today, as we do every year. It's just an amazing time of year to just really obviously get back. I think the businesses in our community and really around Alaska, we're the most generous of all the states in the union. I think we're probably one of the most generous because we rely on each other so heavily, so often, whether it be on the side of the road, in the ditch, or whatever. It's just a great time to openly and just outwardly remember what an incredible place we live. Yeah, we got fiscal cliffs ahead, we got problems, but you know what? We've got probably 700,000 of the best Americans on the planet right here in this state.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think this is a great place. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to go down and get some spaghetti here later today, and hopefully folks will do it as well. And we will see you next week. Bill just said that he used that Who Made Who is his favorite song as well. He said he used to compete in freestyling skiing to Who Made Who.
Oh, nice. Wow.
That was his thing. And yeah, it did come off the Maximum Overdrive soundtrack. All right. So anyway, appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for coming on board. We will see you next week with bells on. I really expect real bells. Okay.
Got them.
All right.
See you later.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, my friend. Folks, we will see you guys tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, and live well. Don't forget to go out and participate in the recipe contest and more. And don't forget, if you're in the Homer area next Sunday, a week from Sunday. There we go. A week from Sunday, Muppet Christmas Carol. All right, my friends, we'll see you. Have a great weekend.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.